Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's and the latest installment of our Innovation at Scale webinar and Thought Leadership series. I have to say that over the last few months, there's been some amazing content coming from this series of webinars that we've been doing, and I'm sure today's session will be no different. First, a little bit of housekeeping. As always, the webinar will be recorded today, and we will share a copy of this with you all after the session today for you to re-reference and also to share with others in your networks and teams. The format today will be similar to previous formats, with about 20, maybe 30 minutes of knowledge sharing by our guests from Multiconsult, followed by 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes of questions, depending how many we get today, and generally a more open discussion in the second part of the session. With that in mind, please note that there is a questions option in the panel that you'll have logged into on screen. And I would like to encourage you all to post questions as we go, using that questions tab. Just to bear in mind, there's a channel called chat and there's one called questions. Use the questions one, not the chat one. It's just easier for me to manage that as we go forward. We'll pick those questions up after the presentation and I'll kind of moderate those as we go through. There's also an opportunity to vote up questions as well. So the more popular ones I will probably pick on, and I'll try and group them as well. If for any reason we get so many questions that we can't possibly cover them, we will come back to you offline after the session with any insights or answers that we might have. Before I introduce today's guests, allow me to quickly introduce myself. For those of you that do not know me, I'm Simon Hill. I'm the founder and CEO at Wazoku, and I'm going to be chairing today's conversation. For those that don't know Wazoku is a pioneer in open innovation, crowdsourcing, and innovation at scale. We provide the tools and processes to help you think and act differently, to help you accelerate your time from idea to invoice, to embrace diversity on a global scale, to accelerate your research and innovation efforts, and to do so with unparalleled success, having helped companies to solve almost 80% of the innovation challenges run over a 20-year period as a company. Through our market-leading software and services, we uniquely help our clients to empower everybody, their employees, their partners, customers, to co-create, collaborate, and innovate with and for you, and also offer you an on-demand access to over 500,000 expert innovators. We give you the power of the global collective intelligence to help you innovate better, faster and cheaper, and drive true value and impact through your innovation endeavors. And with that, I'm delighted to introduce our two guests for today who will be sharing their experiences and learnings as they embrace innovation at scale to help prepare their business to meet the complex challenges both of today and the future. Wazoku, in collaboration with our local market partner, iProcess, have been working with Multiconsult since the early part of 2021. And today's webinar will look at the background to that work, the lessons learned to date, and the vision for the future. And I'm sure there'll be some great insights shared, especially for any of you in the audience who are looking to get started or are already in the early part of your innovation at scale journey. So with that, I'm delighted to welcome Herman Smith, Chief Digital Officer at Multiconsult, and Kristin Olsson Augestad, Executive Vice President for the region Oslo at Multiconsult. Apologies if I just butchered either of your names. Herman, Kristin, the floor is yours, and thank you again. I'm looking forward to the presentation.
Thank you very much, Simon, and thank you for inviting us to this event. We're looking forward for all of it. As you said, my name is Herman Smith. I've been with Multiconsult for a bit more than 8 years. The past 2 years, more or less, as in the role as CDO. And you, Kristin?
Yes, my name is Kristin. As you said, your pronunciation was quite good. I've actually been with Multiconsult for 23 years. I've been with Multiconsult from, we were about 300 employees when I started, and now we are 3,000. So it's been quite a journey. I've had several different jobs in Multiconsult. I worked a lot in projects, and now at the moment, I'm the leader of the Oslo region. We're about 700 employees in Oslo, covering all the different areas and different subjects. And our presentation today, Herman, are you going to open it or?
Yeah, could you please bring up the slides?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're starting this off with about 20 minutes or so giving you some insights, and we call this presentation How We Work to Mobilize All of Our Innovators. And as you introduced, Simon, we are in the middle of a journey now that we hope we aim to describe for you, give you some reflections of what that has entailed and where we are going forward. And this journey is, we like to say our aim for this is to mobilize our innovation potential throughout the organization. And an important milestone for this is the launch of a new idea management system that we're doing this autumn, actually during the next couple of weeks. We're doing this obviously to capture all of the ideas across the company in order to build innovation culture and get a higher return on invest in our innovation activities, as we will come back to.
So for those of you who don't know Multiconsult, as I said, we are over 3,000 engineers and architects in Multiconsult. We have offices in primarily Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. And in Norway alone, we have over 30 different offices. So we have a good spread around the country. We cover, as I said, everything from foundation specialists to interdisciplinary project managers to MOS specialists. We have all the engineering and architects you need to both plan and to construct building and construction projects. Our history dates back to 1908, so we've been around for a long while, and we're planning to be around for quite some time in the future as well. Since 2019, actually, we've been you can say on a journey with a goal to improve our financial results. We've had about 4 years of poor results, and we've been working hard to improve those results. We've actually been quite proud of ourselves. We've done quite well with that, and of course, being able to do both innovation and development is really important for us because it gives us the foundation to be able to succeed also in the future. On our journey of improving our results, we had to look at a lot of different aspects. Why were not our results as good as we thought they should be? And we asked ourselves, do we really succeed with our development and innovation activities? Because we knew that we were spending a lot of money, we were spending a lot of hours on both development and innovation activities. But with the financial results, we felt that we weren't quite getting the payback that we put into it. So we asked ourselves this question: how do we succeed? We looked into it and we saw that we had difficulties with our priorities. We tried to do a lot of activities, a lot of development, a lot of innovations at the same time. We had lack of control of profit realization. It wasn't always clear what our activities were going to lead to. And we saw that it wasn't often so clear to us why we were doing the different kind of innovation and development activities. We have a lot of employees who are really love doing development and innovation activities, but it was not always clear to us what it would lead to in the end and how this would show on our financial figures. So what would you say, Herman? Were we good?
I say the question can be answered, could be seen as a yes or no question, but I don't think you were able to answer it that simply. But because, as you said, as a company, we have been around for more than 100 years, so obviously we have evolved over time. Our employees have a great commitment in terms of they love Multiconsult as a company, but they also have great commitment when it comes to these kind of activities. However, we had, as you said, a clear feeling that the return on invest was not as we wanted. So 2 years ago, we actually did mapping, and we found several things. We found almost 100 initiatives going on around the company within these categories. We also did questionnaires to a lot of different levels of the organization. And some of that insights for sure told us that we didn't, as a central positions in the company, we were not able to see what we did get out of all our investments. They were there, the investments, but we didn't see what we get out of them. And then you are for sure not, we don't have the ability to steer the direction of where we're going and prioritize in order to actually achieve where our strategy tells us where we want to go. On top of that, Multiconsult, as everybody else, we exist now in 2021, and we think 2021 requires something else from us as a company than what maybe was required just a few years ago. And we are not different than any others, that we need to address the global megatrends affecting us. We're within the construction industry, obviously, and that industry, maybe more than others, are affected by changing dynamics in different ways. We get competition from completely new players, both small startups, but also from international and other kind of players. And on top of that, if you see the construction industry and you address both the projects to realize a facility, but also the operation of the facilities, we stand for a huge amount of the climate gas emissions worldwide, which by itself is a huge incentive for change within the industry, but also then for us as a company. So this picture tells us we need to address innovation at scale, as you said, Simon, and as for most established large players, that can be demanding also for us. And we thought, or we decided, that it requires a different approach than what we previously had.
And the good thing is that we have 3,000 idea creators in all our employees. Our employees are out in the projects every day. They are getting inspired. They are thinking of new methods. They are getting frustrated, thinking of things that should be done better. They are cooperating with colleagues. They are at the coffee machine, perhaps also getting ideas, or in their networks. And we just said to ourselves, wow, we have all these 3,000 idea creators, and how do we capture, how are we capturing their ideas, and how are we helping them get their ideas developed so we can sell them or improve our operations. We also saw that we have all these idea creators. We don't think we're able to capture their ideas. We think that some of these ideas, they just stay in their heads. Some of these ideas probably are on an email to a manager. And we also saw that sometimes as a company, for example, when we had our financial troubles, we could need some help. We could need some topics that we would need some help from our employees to solve on a specific topic, and it was just frustrating. We saw that we didn't have the tools or the processes to do this. So what we needed, as Herman said, we need a system, we need a process that allows us both to collect the ideas that we know that are out there, to manage these ideas, to do the priority, and also to have a system that could help us ask for specific ideas on specific topics when we saw that there was something special that we needed to address. And what ideas and then we said our system, needs to do both the idea generation and the strategic vision idea competitions. And if you do the next one, Herman, and we saw that if we all put this into a system, what we're actually doing is we have some new products or some new services that these ideas may lead to. The ideas may lead to some operational improvements. And also we said we are doing some research activities that may both lead to new products or operational improvements. And we are architects, we're engineers, we're used to working in projects, but we're not used to working in these kind of projects. We saw that the process is completely different from the projects we're used to working in, and especially the part where you have a good idea. We're used to making a plan for a year, and then at the end of the year you get the result and you're done, and we're not used to killing our ideas. We're not used to saying stop. We're not going any further. So this was our process that we needed to do, and we also saw that our engineers, our idea creators, they needed help with the process, but they also needed some help with some people helping to facilitate some of these processes.
Yeah. So, I mean, the ability or to be strict on what ideas actually are leading to what has brought us somewhere, so to say, because previously we were often mixing these three portfolios together, or these three ideas. So where did we start? I mean, my role was established almost 2 years ago, and through that we put down a team with dedicated resources to work on our business development and innovation processes. And we saw the importance of having some key resources decoupled from the rest of the organization. However, it's very important for us to say that the ideas come from the organizations, from our projects, from all of our the insights out there, and the execution also then needs to be coupled directly to the organization. So we don't bring all of the ideas out and do them elsewhere, so to say. So we started with establishing a team and bringing those ideas we already knew, because we had done innovation competition previously. We have some insights into great ideas that has surfaced to our attention, and we started working with them systematically to see what were the potential, what were the ideas actually, and starting realizing them, because you need to first of all have some success stories, and we needed to learn how to do this in a Multiconsult environment. And we also needed to start failing, because you learn the most out of failing, and putting up these processes, you will never hit the right button the first time, so to say. So we need to start execute. Then, I mean, through all of these cases that we has been running and learning from, we mentioned several of the aspects already, but we saw this is actually highly important for the people. The idea creators really had ownership to the ideas they created, and you cannot take it away from them. You need to support them and bring them forward in order to make it happen. And then, but they didn't have the tool, and centrally we didn't previously ask the right questions in order to prioritize, as you talked about, Kristin, but also to develop the ideas in the right direction. Questions regarding what problem is actually to be solved, regarding the customer, not what us as experts think is needed, etc. We worked a lot through what are the right questions for us within these topics. You mentioned these processes are in principle different than what our people are used to, but also we see with several of these ideas, our organization, as you said, we are in 30 different locations or something like that in Norway. And when an idea surfaces from Oslo, from your unit, it's not necessarily shown or visualized to offices up north in Trondheim, or even our small office in UK. So they might be thinking about the same idea, or they want to participate or have could benefit from what comes out of that, and we were struggling basically to.
Yeah. And we actually uncovered that we were working on the same ideas in several different offices, which seemed like a waste of time. And we probably, if we had known, we would have mixed them together and come to a result a lot quicker, probably.
Yeah. So we established this simplified process in order to address the need to have a common language, to fill the different parts of the process with content. So we made this idea management process in 4 simple steps, from the suggestion phase through refinement, then you go into realization and that's a hard word, operationalization, with obviously decision gates and evaluation in between the steps. And for us, we needed to start explaining the difference between step 1 and 2, but for us it's been a key to success, because we don't want to invest that much time before you know that it's an idea you want to invest in, before you start working too much and invest time and effort into it. So that's been a key aspect. I also want to mention here that it looks like a traditional waterfall process, so to say, and that's on purpose, because we took the position of the idea creator or the idea itself and what steps it needs to follow. But we are very much aware of that. Maybe especially step 3 and 4 are iterative processes, also in between the steps, how it will practically be handled. And also, if we took the position of the company, you would need I think it's called funnel. Please help me out, Simon, in order to sort ideas and prioritize. So we could visualize this in different way, but we have chosen to take the position of the idea, as I said. Actually, when we started working with this, we expected resistance out in the organization when me and my team came with this, but we actually experienced enthusiasm, the opposite of what we expected. And I think that's actually because previously they didn't know how to work on this. Your leaders, Kristin, didn't know what questions to ask. So now we had a process, we had something to position the ideas on based on, which brought enthusiasm, as I said. It gives some process support, because with a small centralized team we can help some, but we can't help everybody that wants to develop small or large ideas. So just having a process in place helps them to carry out, and as I said, ask the right questions.
And I think that's really a key to help us ask the right questions, both the employees or whoever has the idea and the suggestion to help sort out what is the main goal, but also for the managers and the leaders to ask the right questions in evaluating, because as I said, we're not used to working on these kinds of projects, and all ideas seem like good ideas, but when you break it down and ask the right questions, then it really helps us to, is this an idea we want to use further time on to develop further, or is this, well, not a good enough idea, we have to let it wait.
Let's see, there we can. So now, as I mentioned in the beginning, during the next couple of weeks, we are launching a new platform that we have called Alinea, Latin word for the start of something new, also used as a paragraph in the word for those who know the letter. We named it Alinea just to have a brand of what we're trying to create in Multiconsult, and also to put something more into it than a web portal or what could by some be seen as a tool. Because this is supposed to be a system for our innovation efforts, and that has been important for us. And while we're now going to launch, we see these success factors as the main ones in order to be able to scale it across the organization, because we need to make sure to balance our requirements on how this is handled as a company with the engagement and the willingness of all the people in our organization to contribute, because this is just as good as the ideas we get into the system and the amount of ideas we get into the system, right? So that's a really highly important success factor for us. Then, as I talked about a bit earlier, this the show, or the ability to make a transparent system that is visible for everybody. Where do we put our money? What ideas are there, and where can I contribute, or who can I contact? I think it will actually by itself bring us a long way from where we are today.
Yeah.
Then the third one is the execute part. I also touched upon that with the process, but a standardized way, a language of how we are addressing these topics is important. And the last but not least, the prioritization part of it, the ability to say no and to get an overview of everything. Then it's easier to say no, or to really put the effort where the ones we believe the most in. And when we launch this platform now, we are very aware of that innovation is normally ranked in different scales, like from incremental to radical, or from effective to more transformative ideas. And for us as a company, it's really important to work more on the more radical and transformative ideas. But in order to succeed there, we believe we need a lot of ideas, basically, to be able to pick the best ones. And on top of that, to begin with, we don't expect the ideas coming in to be, we expect them to be more of an incremental art. And then we will work differently with the ones that the company as a whole needs to address in a different way. So in order not to complicate the launch, we haven't addressed that issue for now. So a couple of weeks ago, as we were working on establishing this, bringing up the understanding, the managers basically of the organization has been addressed as maybe the key stakeholder in order to succeed. So a couple of weeks ago, Kristin, we had an event with all of your leaders within your unit, and we asked them, how should we, or how will we succeed with creating the engagement we need all around the organization? And out of that questions, we got quite a lot of feedback.
Yeah, and it was really, I should almost say touching moment, but it was there was so much energy in the room, and I think, you know, the orange bubbles here just show that I think we've already been able to create engagement. Are the managers, they are really looking forward to the system, and also they have realized that this is also a leadership activity. They have to put this on their agenda. They have to talk about it. They have to make sure that the success stories come out. They also have to involve and be a part of and guide and help the idea creators get their ideas through. And they have to also be able to help clarify the goals. They have to also be able to make sure that this is close to the operations that we're doing. So it was really a good start, a good event. We're looking forward to the launch. We've actually tested the launch on one department in my unit, and we thought that we would have to make fictitious ideas just to put it in so we could test how the system worked. But what was really touching and was really nice to see was that there was no need to make fictitious ideas. They were real ideas that people were just eager to get out and to test through the system. And just like in just a couple of days, there were 12 real ideas there that we thought, hey, these are all good ideas. We want to work on these ideas. So we're really excited to launch, and I think one of our, you know, the biggest problem maybe will be to prioritize and to choose which ideas are we now to go forward with, and which ideas need to just wait, because we can't do everything in one time. So this is where we are now. We are looking out in the horizon. We know that there will be change. We don't know what the change will be, but we're really excited to launch. We're really excited to create that innovation culture that we know that we need to be able to be here for another 100 years. And yeah, really excited.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we should wrap up that part of the webinar, Simon.
Thank you, Herman. Thank you, Kristin. And a few quick comments from me. First of all, as I said to you before we came on today, it's great to see two people in a room together presenting. Especially, you guys have really great chemistry together, so it presents really naturally. And I know that English is not your first business language, and so thank you again for a very honest presentation, but also for a very simple explanation of the complicated things that you guys are working on. That's actually really helpful and appreciated. So thank you both. There's a lot to pick up on, right? And as I said to you, to everybody at the start, there's a lot of people at this stage, right? So it's kind of interesting, and I know probably in the discussions in the build up to this, when we said let's get out and share the story, you're like, well, we don't have much of a story to share yet. And we're like, we have such an important story to share because you've made the big decision that lots of people want to make, but don't necessarily know how to make those first early steps. So it can feel quite big and scary and daunting to take this on. And it's not really about a software, right? It's about a whole set of complicated things, of which a software is a part of it. There's a few questions in here, and they kind of relate to some of those points, really. So I might just dig into them. One of them were, what were the main arguments that convinced top management team to invest? It says in an innovation platform, but I actually want to think about the whole program. And I know you were very honest about, the business wanting to return to growth and those things, but there are many ways you can go about that as a business, right? So what was it specifically about this program what were the best arguments that said we should be doing this, we should be investing in it? And what did you have to do to get management to sign that off? Because it's a big challenge for lots of people.
I think it started with we looked into how we spent both our money and our hours, and then Herman showed the top management, you guys, we're working on 100 different development and innovation projects. Are you sure? The first question he asked, do you know all these projects? And we said, no, not all. And then he showed us some other projects that were very similar that we were working on different locations. And so it was just, I think, how can we afford not to? This was just, we were not spending our money in a good way. We didn't get our return on investment. And we know that we are a company that with engineers and architects, we need to develop all the time. And we just saw that we were not doing it in a very effective way. So yeah, you could probably.
Yeah, I think that was the starting point. But me being in the position that I had to drive the decision forward, so to say, to the decision gate towards you and the group, I think it was a good place to start. However, the difficult part was not we need to work more systematically with the innovation. The difficult part was we need to do it at scale with the idea management platform. That was, we need an additional investment on top of putting a dedicated team, etc. I think that was the hard part, so to say, even though it's a smaller investment. So that was our main focus, was to try to explain how we can address the key success factors, as I touched upon earlier, regarding transparency, etc., through a platform like this.
Thank you. How are you? So you said there's a team that's being put in place, but also you're sort of training this out into the organization. So what is the size of the team that you put around this look like? How do you envisage this is going to play out operationally? For people that might be thinking, I've got to go and build a brand new team and put more and more resource around this, how much does it just augment the existing operational resources and capabilities in the business versus a need for sort of dedicated resource, do you guys think, from your perspective?
I think there's different aspects to that. I can start with some reflections in terms of the organization, not taking in the dedicated team first, because you mentioned the pilot we ran a couple of months ago, Kristin. We thought we needed to do fictional ideas, but we got 10 or 12 ideas. And I need to say on your behalf that you and your manager was a bit stressed out because, whoa, we have all of these ideas we need to take into account and address, basically. But the thing is that they were always there. Now you are able to actually say, we are prioritizing this, we are not prioritizing that, instead of a situation where you don't know, and maybe people are working on those ideas without telling someone, right? So I think that will enforce the organization's ability to innovate by themselves. When it comes to your question specifically, Simon, in terms of the team, we are a small team with just a few people that are started off facilitating these innovation cases, basically. And then we are now also a small team of 4 or 5 people involved in putting up the platform, putting up the system, and we're very but working on different cases involves a lot of the organization, right, in terms of the different ideas and the different cases. But putting the system in place doesn't entail that much.
But I think a key factor is really to engage the managers and the employees, because we can't afford a really big team doing this for us. We have to, and some of our development projects, they're not that big. They're just small improvements, but we need to do small improvements as well, as step by step. And we need a system where our managers can handle the small development projects by themselves. But we also need to have some people who are trained on doing this. So when we have the bigger projects, that involves more hours, more money, we have some people who can come and help us facilitate these processes, because they're very different from the projects that we are used to working on. And yeah, we just I think the things we were doing wrong is we were treating them like normal projects. We planned them and made a nice plan, and we'll do this, and in a year we'll come out with this project. And it didn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way.
But that said, also I think it's important to say that we haven't launched the platform yet. We're working like if it was there. But when we launch, we expect, at least we hope to have many more ideas. And I think the centralized team will be too small in order to support the organization, but we don't know yet, and we will learn along the way, right? And if that will be the case 2 months from now, Kristin will actually come to me and ask for me to establish a bigger team, instead of me telling Kristin that I need to support you in different ways, because then we have the ideas. We need to can act on facts, not on intuition.
Great. So you guys are launching soon. You made the decision to push forward with this earlier in the year. What have you learned in that period related to platform and more broadly before launch? Like, what surprised you? What did you not know when you decided to go forward with this? That's sort of taken that window of time between when you press go and now launch.
Good question.
I think before you take the decision, you have thought about several amount of aspects regarding this. But when you decide to actually buy a system and put up a system in a certain way, through a platform or in Excel sheet, doesn't matter, then you start addressing the specifics much more. And then you need to do kind of an iterative approach itself by how this should work, and start making larger circles in the organization, testing out how this should work out, all these interfaces that will be slightly different than before, everything from how decision making will be done towards putting up the right questions in the right phases, etc. So
I think probably decision making has come as not a surprise, but we see that we really need to have actually what we saw is the decision making processes we've had up till now. isn't really compliant with the system, and we've decided, or we see that it's not the system, it's our process that we need to change. So that has come as a result of this as well.
Can you talk a little bit about that? You raised a really important topic, I think, of asking the right questions and that being an important skill. So what are you doing? What have you done to educate yourselves in that? What are you doing to educate others? And how does that feed in? As you quite rightly said, it's not just about asking the right question up front. It's about asking the right question every time you revisit those things in the process. So given that's so important, what is it that you're doing around that?
I think, first of all, we have been taking several rounds of refining the questions that are within the platform, because what I say, we will not, as a centralized team, be able to support everybody, but the platform itself should support the one that comes there. It tells you the questions they need to answer in order to get a decision, because that's what they want in the end of the day, right? Hopefully a yes to be able to continue working on something that they care about. So I think that's that has been a focus to refine that, to test it out in real cases. And the third part slipped my head, so please fill in, Kristin.
I can't see in your head, so no, sorry.
That's a pretty good answer. It's pretty likely, given the engagement you got from a very small pilot, and it's always nice to see you don't have to invent fictitious ideas, right? You get some really good ones coming forward that were just waiting for somewhere to have a voice. But you're going to get a lot of ideas coming through when you guys launch. So how are you intending to evaluate those, get better at saying no, and not necessarily, it's kind of not now rather than no necessarily, right? And deciding which ones to get funded. And I think even that's like building more of a hypothesis basis into your ways of working, right? It's not like we're suddenly going to say, yes, this is worth tens of millions, go forth and do it. It's like, how do you plan on building that so that you do get scale from the individual ideas that should get scale, but don't necessarily kill too early the ones that need a little bit more lifeblood? How are you thinking about at this point in time?
I think our biggest challenge will be to prioritize, to say either no, not at all, or not now, probably later. That's been our biggest challenge up to now, and I think it will be. It's a cultural thing. The ideas seem great. We just want to do it. We're eager. We just want to start working on it, and to kill an idea, or to say, well, it's a really good idea, but we can't afford this right now. I think that will be our biggest challenge. I think we need to work on it. I think we need to practice. I think we need to help each other, and I think it helps that we have a focus on how much can we afford to spend on this, and then we just stick to that. I don't know if you have anything else, Herman.
I think there's at least two parts of that. I think it challenges the leaders around the organization to actually have this on the agenda, because it's part of their daily job today as well. But I'm not sure if it's always treated that way, if you see what I mean, because it's time or money they invest, consciously or unconsciously. So I think that's the key factor, that it's actually on the agenda around the management, all levels. And then, as a central team that we will building up, we will also have look into all the ideas and see which ones of these have the potential to really go in scale, as you say, Simon, because then as a company we need to invest in them in a different way maybe than many of those that will stay around in the organization. And I remembered what I forgot to say earlier, and it's fairly related, so I'll say it anyway, because you asked about what have we done to be ready to launch. And we have done everything we can up until now on what we know. But I'm very sure that what we launch is not the system. If you come ask us in 1 year from now, it will look different and it will work in a different way. But we believe in what we have now based on what our learnings. And then as you do innovation projects by themselves, you need to adjust, you need to test out, and you need to try it out. And when we now launch to the whole organization, we will learn new things of how this will work, and we are open to that. So.
Well, we'll diarize for 12 months' time, right, and see what we've learned in a year. One of the challenges is always you can launch with these big bangs, right? And it's like you come out, you've got a new system, and I'd be interested to talk a little bit more how you are planning on launching in a few weeks' time. But also, have you thought about how you plan to motivate people beyond that sort of immediate big bang launch with continuous engagement? Have you thought about that as a team?
Well, we're not going to launch in the whole company at the same day. We're going to do it step by step, just so Herman's team as well, can see are there too many ideas or not too many, but is there an expectation from this part of the company to get help with all these ideas? Do we need to do some adjustments to the system? So we're going to do it step by step with about a couple of weeks, I think, in between the different departments here in Oslo, just to get some experience, to be able to do some adjustments, and to also be able to help with expectations, either to not to oversell a system, and of course we need to guide the managers who are going to be also helping and doing part of this. Herman's team can't do it alone. So yeah, I think step by step. That was the first question. I think you had one more and I forgot.
Yeah, but for now, in order to mitigate risk, basically, if this turns out not to work the way we thought it should, it's easier to mitigate if you do it step by step, and also to handle the ideas that are coming. And then we have a hypothesis that there are a lot of ideas based on this pilot we talked about, but also when talking about or engaging with the organization in other settings, we have a clear hypothesis that there is a lot of ideas out there that needs to be caught. So we call it a ketchup effect in Norway. I'm not sure if you use that in English or UK. You understand what I mean, Simon?
We use that, yeah.
So we expect kind of this ketchup effect to begin with, and based on that, we want to see what that is, and then to just collect the ideas that are out there and make the platform available. Do sufficient amount of the teaching with some e-learning, etc., and focus on the managers because they are the ones taking the decisions. Then, based on where we are after that, we will start continue more on the engagement part, and also work on what strategic competitions should be launched, etc., for the company. We are not doing that to begin with. We are actually waiting that on purpose to first have the platform, as I said.
So you're generally going to be capturing sort of an open funnel of ideas across the whole sort of broad spectrum of idea types and problem areas and everything else, and then you'll move more into what we call challenge-driven innovation, right? So problem statement focused innovation going forward. Yeah. Interesting. Good. And that sort of fits, I think, with one of the questions in here, which is there a top-down vision for the future that you're collecting ideas from going bottom up, right? So is there, I guess it's kind of both, right, in terms of what you're saying, but what's that top-down vision for the future look like for you? Is it aligned to specific strategic areas of the business? Do you not know yet? Is it sort of to be written in the stars, or what's the thinking?
Our new corporate strategy was actually launched today with Linnea as one of the facilitators for realization. So somehow it's written in the stars, Simon. but however, as I said, we start with collecting the ideas that are out there, and then we are for sure will pick down specific topics from the strategy and utilize the power of our idea creators in order to realize, and then combine that with more of top-down initiatives, because obviously we have those as well as all other companies.
Yeah, but we're starting with the bottom up.
Yeah, I didn't know that when I asked the question, so perfect timing. One of the questions in here is about, you're looking internally for that catch up of ideas and really engage your 3,000 brilliant people that work at Multiconsult. But obviously they're out working externally with external projects and customers and partners, and the innovation that you guys do needs to have value out in the market. So have you thought about how you might bring your customers, your partners, others into this as you evolve and grow?
Yeah, should I start? Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, innovation doesn't happen in Multiconsult. It happens in our ecosystem with clients, partners, suppliers, etc. Right. So, but we want to start with our own people, because they need to learn and know where to go with their ideas. They need to learn the basics of how Multiconsult are working with this, and then next steps obviously is to involve clients. I mean, when you do specific challenges, it doesn't need to be Multiconsult specific. They can be in all large projects, for example. They can be with our ecosystem, etc. So that is to be figured out along the way, but for sure we will go that direction. Yeah.
Fantastic. Sorry, my kids have just come home, so I'm terrified someone's going to come burning in the room in a minute. So I'm going to slowly start to wrap us up as we get there. So last question on this is: have you thought about? You put some sort of success factors up there, but have you thought about sort of metrics and key performance indicators, and in particular, what you might be looking to report up in terms of success from the program as you go forward? Is this driven to engagement and volume at this point in time, or is there a kind of a krona, dollar, pound based ROI that you're looking for as well off the back of it?
For now, I mean, the platform obviously allows us for the engagement idea part of the KPI metrics, as you say, Simon, and that's where we will start. But there's a clear ambition towards the the economical part of it, and that's where we came from, right? And that's where I think we're headed. But we need to start with the engagement idea part to start learning.
But this system and this tool now gives us the possibility to, we can count, we can see how many ideas come into the system, how many ideas do we stop at stage 1, how many do we stop at stage 2, and I think that's a good key performance indicator as well. We don't know what the number should be, but first we have to, just see where are we at this, and then we can start measuring.
Fantastic. And I think taking this phased approach is absolutely the right thing to do, right? There's this temptation to go out with a big bang and set all these big ambitious KPIs and everything else. And the reality is, as you said earlier, you're coming into this with a very honest answer to are we succeeding, which is we think so, but we don't know, right? And we need to get some data points on the table. We need to learn, and we need to evolve as we go. So fantastic. I think I'm going to pause us there because I do know I'm going to get invaded any second as well. Apologies. I'm going to, first of all, thank you both for what I think has been a really honest account of the drivers and needs of the organization. Right? I really mean that. I really appreciate it. Sometimes when you come on, these can be conversations where you feel like the culture of the organization sometimes is guarding what people say. I felt like we got a very honest understanding of you both, of the business that you're in, and the reasons you're making these investments, right, as an organization. I think it's interesting that you framed it around, we need to learn how to prioritize, how to make sure what we're doing is aligned to strategy and that it's driving value, which sounds really obvious, but so many people are not yet really thinking about that. And I love the soundbite that you gave me, Kristin, of just how can we afford not to do it, right? That's a great headline that I believe passionately everyone needs to get hold of. So thank you. So sincerely, thank you to both of you for giving up your time today. I know you were so excited you came on an hour early as well. So thank you. Thank you very much to you for giving your time and for sharing your story, and to everybody else for joining the session with us today. And you look like you're about to say something, Herman.
No, I was just about to say thank you so much for inviting us. It was a pleasure sharing our story. And
well, it's very much appreciated, and we will revisit this in a year and see what you've learned as well today. Yeah. For everybody whose answers, if there were some questions we didn't answer, we'll share them. There was one saying, where can we learn more? And I think one of the places I would recommend is, well, two actually. So one, we've got a really good report called Innovation at Scale, which my team will share in the follow-up if they can't throw up on screen now. And I think it's a good sort of takeaway just to sort of read through and think about the different components of how you might set up your organization for innovation at scale. But also we've had some really good webinars recently. This is one of them, which everyone sat on today, but we've done some really good ones over the last few months, and we'll share a link to the recordings of those, which I would definitely recommend. We've done 2 recently with 2 leading scholars, one from Stanford and one from Harvard Business School, where they were sharing some really useful and really interesting insights. I think particularly the topic of corporate and personal identity is one that I'm sure that from a Multiconsult perspective, you'll think about, right? You said we're used to working on projects, but not these kind of projects. And it's an identity thing as much as anything, right? People think about that word and then think about what the nuance of the 2 things mean. So thank you very much again to you both. Thank you to all the people that gave up almost an hour of their time. And I look forward to seeing you on future webinars. Everybody stay well in these kind of still crazy times as we all look to continue to change the world one idea at a time. Thanks everybody, and goodbye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.